So what do you think is our most primal fear? The dark? Spiders, maybe? Well, according to historian Heinrich Wilson's book, Buried Alive, Screams Beneath the Earth, there's one terror that has haunted us more than any other, and that's the chilling idea of waking up 6 feet under.
Just try to imagine that for a second. That moment of confusion turning into pure, cold panic. You scream, you beat on the lid right above your face, but nothing. The sound just dies. It's the most desperate cry for help you could ever imagine, and it goes absolutely nowhere.
And that's really the heart of the horror, isn't it? The wood of the coffin, all that heavy soil packed on top, it basically creates a perfect, soundproof tomb. You are completely and utterly cut off from the entire world.
Then the physical reality starts to set in. The air gets thin, and every single breath is a struggle. Your arms are pinned, totally useless. It's the ultimate claustrophobia, where your own coffin becomes this immovable prison.
You know what's so terrifying about this? Isn't just death. It's the thought of being awake for it, a conscious witness to your own final horrifying moments, completely powerless to do a thing. It's a prison with no key, no guard, and absolutely no escape.
But here's the thing. This nightmare isn't something we just cooked up for horror movies. Believe it or not, this fear has a long, dark, and really fascinating history that's been shaping our anxieties for centuries.
In fact, the fear of being buried alive, it's actually called taphophobia, is one of the oldest and most persistent fears we have as a species. It's been echoing through our stories, our folklore, and even our science for generations.
And you can actually trace how this fear evolved. Way back in ancient times, it was all tangled up in myths and superstitions. Then you fast forward to the medieval plagues, and with all the mass burials happening so quickly, it became a very real, terrifying possibility. But it was the Victorian era where things got, well, obsessed. It was fueled by real-life stories and a kind of morbid scientific curiosity, and the fear just hit an all-time high. And of course, it still haunts our collective psyche today.
Now, when a fear gets this intense, you know human ingenuity is going to kick in. People weren't just going to lie down and accept this fate. They started asking a really important question. Okay, if you can't stop it from happening, how could you possibly escape it?
And this led to some wild inventions, like the safety coffin. The idea was simple, if maybe a little grim. Picture it. You wake up, you find a cord inside the coffin with you, you give it a pull, and it triggers a bell or maybe a little flag up on the surface. It was literally a last-ditch alarm system to let the night watchman know, hey, a huge mistake has been made down here. But it wasn't just about bells and whistles. This was part of a much bigger movement. You had inventors, doctors, scientists. All of them were basically trying to wage a war against the finality of the grave, to draw a clear line between life and death and build a fail-safe for the one mistake you could never come back from.
So, okay, safety coffins are pretty much a thing of the past, but the questions that whole era raised, they definitely still linger. The fear left this permanent mark on our culture, and it's kind of hidden in plain sight in our traditions and some of our biggest unanswered questions.
I mean, have you ever really thought about this? Why 6 feet deep? Well, part of it goes back to the plague, right? It was a practical way to stop disease from spreading and keep grave robbers out. But you better believe that tradition is also deeply tangled up in this primal fear.
And what about the people who worked closest with the dead? You know, the grave diggers and the sextons. What did they see? What did they hear? The source material for this brings up the chilling idea that they were the keepers of some dark stories. Stories of scratch marks found on the inside of coffin lids, or bodies found in positions they definitely weren't buried in.
And that's the thing. In the end, for all the clever inventions, for all our modern science, we'll never know how many of those screams went unheard, how many stories were buried forever, right under our feet.
And all this really makes you think, doesn't it? This ancient terror of being buried alive, it taps into something so much deeper. The fear of not being heard, of being trapped, of losing all control. It makes you wonder, in our hyper-connected world today, what primal fears of our own are still echoing, just waiting for a quiet moment to surface.
Now, all the research and these chilling details we've been digging into, they come directly from Heinrich Wilson's incredible book. It's a fascinating journey into this history, and it kind of feels like it's finally letting those long-swallowed cries be heard.
So if you want to explore the folklore, the strange inventions, and the unsettling true stories for yourself, you can find the book. It's available now on Amazon.